Alright, so the next thing is the direction, which is really important to understand the directions. This is probably where most people are going to get messed up, is understanding direction, which is the x, y, or z direction in this case. And last is the distance, which is basically the distance between each line that the contour, which will create the contour. So I'm going to plug in this loft into the surface. One more thing before I do start plugging things in. If you're new to Grasshopper and you're sort of questioning to what it wants, like in this case it's pretty obvious what the shape is, the point, and direction. You can always like right click on it and always extract parameter. So it extracts out this point, right? And you can actually right click and set multiple points, but what's more important, if you actually hit Control and Alt at the same time and click on this node, Grasshopper would actually show you where it's located, and that works with any case. So it's pretty cool. You can find what it is, and you can actually go here and figure out what it wants. So a point, wants a collection of points. So I'm gonna actually go with. So plug in the loft into the surface. We also want to have direction and distance. So right now we have this surface, and I want to have to cut this the pieces like this way. So the direction that it's gonna go in that case, is up and down, which is in this case, if this is x and this is y, that is the z direction. So in Grasshopper, just press Z or unit Z and click on this, and now you can plug in this into the direction. So now it knows that this is the direction that we're going to go in. So, and now nothing's happening right now because it doesn't know what distance, what intervals we need. So I'm going to type in a slider and I'm going to put 1.000, and I'll show you why right now. So I'm going to plug this into the distance, and I can modify this. But don't put it to 0. Let's give it a second. Alright, so 1, like you said before, is equal to 1 feet. So if I press 1 in Grasshopper, press enter, it makes this number slider with 1 and 0. I want more, so maybe I can type in 10. Right, in this case, this is 10 feet. And it goes up to 0, 1, 2, these intervals. But I don't want whole numbers because, I feel really limited when I'm using whole numbers, and it's going to go 1 feet, 2 feet, maybe really bad, so I put 2 feet here, plug that in, and now every 2 feet you have this, but I don't want, this is too spaced out for me, I want to have more control. So what I do is press the number 1.000, if I go here, try Control Z. So if I go in this and edit, right now it has these integers, but if I go to this one and edit this by right clicking and edit, it has floating point numbers, so you can go to higher intervals here. So this is one thing to know, 1.00, not going to go between 0 to 1, but more intervals. So if we want to go a half a feet, you do 0.5, which is equal to 6 inches distance, so you can sort of understand the intervals at a scale. And the next thing you're going to do, you actually make a contour in this direction, so cutting it in the opposite direction, so it's actually creating these cuts. So we can actually copy this contour by clicking on it. I also want to copy the distance, so I can hold shift and click on the distance, and then Control C, Control V, and I just pull it down. Be careful, like you might hit Control C, Control V, you might click out of it by accident, and you're gonna have these two. In this case, it's easy to just click on both of them, but in some cases you might have a lot more. So be careful after copying. So I Control C, Control V, and naturally this contour comes up. It still has the direction in this direction, so two lines overlapping each other. Right. So I want to actually make a new direction. So I want to cut it this direction. Right. So it's kind of hard to understand, but this is going to be cut in the X direction. So I'm going to type in X, plug it into direction, going to create these. In this case, if I go to the top view, better understandable, go to top view, if you ever get confused, and a Rhino will always orientate Y is this green line, X is this green line. So I'm going to cut it this way. You can imagine my mouse cutting through the X axis. So we want to cut the S this way. Let's say we want to cut it this way, it'll be cutting through the Y axis. So you plug in Y here. So in this case we're going to cut this way. So we want to cut into the X axis. X perspective. So in many cases what happened was some people had their building orientated maybe 90 degrees this way, and everything was sort of changed depending on the orientation. Everything sort of changed depending on the orientation, so we had to be careful. So we have these two, X and Y. Next thing to do, I'm actually going to hide the loft. Now we're going to sort of start creating thickness. So in this case, these will actually be wood pieces, or some sort of wood, you guys can, so we'll make it like wood pieces. So we need to have thickness. Right now we just have lines representing, something. But we're going to have actually some thickness. So I'm actually going to take these contours. So these are the contours going in the Z direction. Sort of cutting the Z direction, going in XY direction, on the XY plane. And I'm going to actually move these. So move right here. What move does, I want to show you right now. So I'm going to take this geometry, which is anything outputting here is a geometry, because it's a curve. Plug it into this. This wants the geometry. Plug these curves here. So it has this, but now it also needs direction as well, similar to this one. So this gets a little confusing when you're doing all these directions. So we understand this is a Z direction going up and down, cutting on this XY plane to create these lines right here going across. And we're going to move these points. So if I have a line, think of this line here, there's a windy line here, you're going to move it in this direction. Right? This is be the Y direction, this is the X, and then we have the Z. So you're going to move it this way. In this case, you're going to move these curves going across this way in this direction. So I'm going to type in Y, plug it into the transformation. If you see this, it automatically creates this curve. So I'm going to plug it out, plug it back in, automatically create this curve. But we want to have actually control over how far I move it away from this, because essentially it's going to actually create a surface. But I'm actually going to go a little faster, so I'm going to loft this geometry from the move and this contour, right? Just because I want to show you guys the surface. So I have this, you guys can kind of see it, and it just created any sort of space, but I want to actually have more control over that, so I can actually type in a number. So same thing I did at 1.1, 1.000, because this won't be bigger than the feet, it's definitely smaller than the feet. I want to make this maybe 6 inches, so 0.5, and plug that in. If you have a 6-inch piece of wood, right, so you can see, the reason I blocked this so you guys can see it, how thin or thick you want this wood to be. And realize, also notice how it's going backwards, right? In this case you want it to go forward, not backwards. So we're actually going to make it in negative direction. I'm going to modify this one instead of changing, making a new one. So right click on this number slider. Right here it says edit, you're going to edit this. So the minimum and maximum is right now 0 and 1. I'm going to change the maximum to 0 and the minimum to 1. Max 0, minimum negative 1. Not 1, but negative 1. Right, press OK. And now I actually can control just moving in the forward direction. Right? So now we have this. And you want to have this loft, so that way it actually lofts these contours and this move geometry. And then just hide it for a second. So you have this contour, which is the original contour we had, and the move geometry, which is the surface, which is the curve moving forward in one direction. We just lofted it, so that way it creates a surface. Preview it. Alright, we're going to do the same exact thing, but for this one. So it's important to understand again how this directions are working and understanding the X, Y, Z coordinate. So I'm going to have these curves, which are these contours. We sort of determine them from the X. Remember, cutting this way. So I want these curves to also move in this direction, right? Which is in fact the Y direction. So same idea, gonna move this geometry, these curves in the Y direction. In the Y direction, so Y, you see it creates these. Let me just turn this off for a second. It sort of creates, just disconnect it, so it creates these right away. You can select it. So same thing, I'm going to just loft it so I can sort of understand it. Maybe you want to visualize it better by lofting it. Alright, if I can actually copy this one here. We're gonna come back to this one especially, but for now just modify this, and we can actually preview them back again. So preview the loft and preview this one and hide this geometry. Right, so now we have this surface, these two surfaces, but they're all both singular surfaces. I'm actually gonna go back. So remember, this is parametric designing.